And we are live.
Hey guys.
Hi, everyone.
Brian Davis and Denny Splee
Welcome
here from Spark Rental.
Yes. Brian, I forget what you talked about last week, so why don't you start with that?
So Denny was camping last week. I was holding down the fort by myself. So I talked about ways to diversify your real estate investments because, let's face it, real estate is expensive, right? I mean, even if you go out and borrow a mortgage to buy a property and leverage other people's money, you're still looking at tens of thousands of dollars typically in down payments and closing costs. So we talked about some easy ways that investors can diversify their real estate investments last week. And by we, I mean me.
Not me.
But Denny's back this week.
I am. And this week we're going to be talking about an interesting topic. Ways to persuade a skeptical spouse. Try saying that a few times. To invest in real estate so that it's a joint effort. So let's jump right in here. Brian, why don't you tell us, was Katie always right in there with this?
Absolutely not. In fact, she's still a little skeptical about real estate, even though real estate has treated us pretty well. But no, I mean, she has always been skeptical about real estate ever since hearing some of my horror stories from when I first got started in real estate investing, and I did lose quite a bit of money. As a young man in my mid-20s. I ran out and bought a whole bunch of properties right at the peak of the bubble in 2007 and 2008. I didn't know what I was doing, and I totally messed up. And they were expensive lessons, but I think that's really the right way of looking at it, is as lessons. So those losses I consider tuition. That was the cost of my education, right. And one of the reasons why Denny and I are so big on education, especially free education, is to help you guys avoid paying that same tuition that we paid early in our careers. So anyway, that's a long way to answer your question, but no, she was not always on board with real estate investing.
To learn, yeah.
And what about you? Was Jerry, has he always been interested in real estate and supportive?
Awesome. Well, I wasn't going to say awesome, but it's not awesome. He has been supportive, and I think it's because I've been involved in it forever. But I know there were times where he was. Are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's what happens when I'm on the East Coast and Brian's in Brazil, and our sound isn't synced up here.
So he has been supportive of your real estate investment. So it's good to hear.
So. Yes, for the most part, yeah, I've been lucky there. As long as I can show him it works, There are times where he's had his moments.
I'm sure, because there is an element of risk in any kind of investment.
And I apologize, everybody, right? For some of the. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Brian, can you tell us how did you do it? How were some ways that you were able to bring Katie around?
Well, I mean, it starts with communicating a shared vision and bringing your spouse into that vision. So for me, the first thing is just sitting down with your spouse and openly talking about your financial goals and making sure that those goals are in alignment. So you can do things like create a vision board together. And again, things like that, it should be done together. It should not be one person creating the vision board and then trying to push that vision on the other person. It really needs to be a collaborative process. You need to talk through your shared financial goals, because ultimately when you get married, you normally blend your finances. So you have to have a shared financial vision.
And grab some wine, right?
Yeah.
Grab some wine.
Why not? Yes. I mean, have some fun with it. This is not supposed to be the scary or the miserable part of this. This is the fun part. And you want to bring your spouse into that vision and have them consider this fun and exciting too. And to me, the most important thing is reframing the conversation around real estate investing away from an expense and a risk and into an investment to build wealth and to build passive income. Because your partner, if they are reluctant, it's probably because they are viewing this as a big risk, as a big expense.
Right.
So you're saying, oh, we're going to go out and we're going to use real estate to build wealth. And what they're thinking is, oh, you're going to go out and take $20,000 of our money and put it on the line. So they are viewing this whole conversation very differently than you are. So you need to reframe that conversation away from an expense and into an investment to build your wealth, build your passive income.
It's very important mindset.
What's that, Danny?
Would you say that you would definitely have to listen to each other's fears? That you should definitely listen attentively to the fears instead of discounting. I know a lot of people will hear fear and be like, no, you're crazy. It's not going to work out that way. Where I think it's probably a better approach to listen, because they're real. The fears are real.
100%. And your partner is not going to listen to you if they don't feel heard themselves. So the first thing you need to do is listen to their objections, listen to their fears, and you can then approach, or you can counter those objections and talk about those fears. But the first thing you need to do is acknowledge them and make sure that your partner feels heard about those fears.
Right.
So once, and then at that point, you can start getting your partner excited about real estate. Once you have addressed some of their fears, you can start doing things like talking about risk mitigation, like buying rent default insurance. So if your partner says, well, what if the tenants don't pay the rent? You say, well, it's a good thing we can buy rent default insurance. So the insurance kicks in and starts paying the rent if the tenants stop. So things like that. You can address all of these different fears and risks in a methodical way, but you have to take them seriously first. And then you can start getting them excited about looking at different properties, running the numbers with your partner. And again, that should be done with your partner. It should be a collaborative process. You can use a rental ROI calculator to run the numbers on a potential property, or many potential properties, hopefully. And we do have a free one of those you can use. And start working on creating an investment plan together. But your partner does need to feel like they are a part of that process.
Absolutely. Definitely. You have to be together on this. And make it, again, when you're looking at the properties, look at them together, run the numbers together so that you both are learning together, like this works, this doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they should ideally be learning alongside you. Yeah, you want them to be learning alongside you, not just you kind of running with this by yourself and leaving them out of the conversation. So you can also create contingency plans with your spouse. And we touched on this a minute ago, but ways to address their fears. I mean, address these systematically as part of your investing plan, as part of your investing strategy. So using rental ROI calculators, that's a good start to show objective numbers. But you also want to set up backup plans, right? Contingency plans in case something does go wrong. So if your partner really digs their heels in and does not want to invest any money, you can say, all right, well, what if we use some of my savings first? Some of the money that I've set aside, so that is, what's technically on the line. That's what's invested. And you can do things like explain to them how house hacking works, or you can explain how you can mitigate risks through aggressive tenant screening and protective legal contracts. We're big on landlord protective lease agreements. And there are a whole series of ways that you can protect yourself in your investment and mitigate those risks.
Additionally, would you say connecting with other? Do you not hear me?
You froze up.
What do you think about connecting to other couples that do this.
Yeah, I mean, the
I think we're
more
both freezing.
people, the more people that uh, your wife sees around you guys investing in real estate, the more excited that they'll get about it. So, you can do things like go to real estate investing club meetings together. You can go out for a happy hour with other couples that are involved in real estate investing, other people who share similar life goals like financial independence and retiring early. But yeah, bringing in that social component in it will show your spouse that this is not a fringe thing. This is not something for a small community, but this is something that anyone can do, and a lot of people do across the U.S. It's a mainstream thing. So yeah,
Right.
definitely show some social proof, as they say in the marketing world.
And what about you're going to save money, right? That's the idea. You want to try to cut down spending and stuff. And how do you talk a spouse into that who likes to spend actually? Like
That's harder. That's tricky, and I've lived through that myself. Katie likes to live a nicer lifestyle, shall we say? Probably the most diplomatic way I can put that. But that has actually, over the last few years, we've come into some more alignment with that. For one thing, we have gotten better at sitting down and talking about money and talking about our shared financial goals, because for a long time I had different long-term financial goals than Katie did. So we both plan on working indefinitely, and her attitude was, well, if I'm going to work until my 60s or 70s anyway, why shouldn't I enjoy myself now and treat myself? I am interested in financial independence and reaching financial independence at a young age, even though I still plan to continue working. But as I brought her in and started showing her some of the math behind building wealth and how much faster we can build wealth with a higher savings rate and by cutting some of our expenses and some of the things that will enable in our lifestyle, and for our children. We're one child singular right now, but she warmed up to that as I brought her into more of the long-term vision of what we want for our finances, and then you can scale it back to the nuts and bolts of how to actually get there.
right. So, as you can see, it's possible to definitely get on board. Have both parties be on board to the real estate investing adventure. And I think that it's kind of cool when you do it together. I mean, I can only speak for my husband and I. There are certain properties we'll discuss and we'll even like dream about. And like our next venture is going to be, I want to go for the vacation spot area, and I want to try to, I don't know why I'm a glutton for punishment, I think, but I want that. But we've been actually kind of excited and looking at the different properties. So it can be fun. You know, I don't think it needs to be all work, and it's a benefit for your future. So it's like it could be a win-win.
Absolutely. And one final thought on that point is that things got better between my wife and me when it came to our shared financial vision and our personal finances when I started sending her monthly reports about our progress towards financial independence,
That's a
toward
great
building
idea.
wealth. So, there are three main numbers that I think everyone should be tracking every single month. And the first one of those is your investable net worth. So, the net total of your assets and your wealth. The second is your savings rate, the percentage of your income that you are putting towards savings and investments each month. And the third number is your FIRE ratio, which is the percentage of your living expenses that you can cover with passive income from your investments. Now, there's a million other numbers you can use to gauge your progress as you build wealth. But to me, those are the three most important numbers. And when I started showing Katie every single month some of our financial progress and made it tangible for her how we were building wealth because she wasn't going out to spas as often or staying at five-star hotels, it made it much more real for her and much more tangible. And she's like, oh, wow, we really are building wealth much faster. So it again helped bring her into, a shared sense of vision and of mission,
Right.
and where we both want to go. And we have a comment here from Tim Dooley, who says, "My challenge is that I'm the one who financially is making it happen. My fiance is fence sitting. Although she witnessed me showing wealth income that allows her to live in a townhouse for half than it would if she were on her own." Um, so yeah, I mean, it is tricky to bring your spouse on board with this. And yeah, to me, it helps when you sit down and make sure that you both are in alignment for where you want to go. Because if one person wants a very different destination than the other person wants, you're going to struggle. So like Denny said, sitting down over a bottle of wine and talking through what you want your life to look like in 5
You also,
years,
I
10
think,
years, 15 years helps. What's that,
I
Denny?
think there's a different approach to, according to personalities. You have the numbers. I think the approach between different people, I think we have to take that into consideration. Like you're a numbers guy, Brian, and maybe your wife wants to see some of the other parts of it that might be more appealing. So I think it's important to see, like Tim, maybe your wife would be more appealed to, maybe looking at the different properties, and maybe you're the numbers guy or whatever. But this way you can at least come together on some points in the venture.
Absolutely. Well, Denny, is there anything else you want to touch on with this topic before we wrap it up for the day?
Just that we are putting a link to an article that Brian wrote just about this. That's quite helpful. I just put it in the chat, and that's about it. Just send us those subjects that you want to discuss. Brian, did you want to say anything about our podcast?
We will be starting to release this as a podcast each week. So keep an eye out for that on sparkrental.com, on iTunes, on Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. And but we will continue to broadcast these live as well. So they will continue to be unpolished, but also interactive. So you can ask us questions in real time here. We do want this to be about you guys too, not just us recording this in private and
Absolutely.
then putting it out there as a one-way conversation. So on that note, have a great rest of your week, you guys. Let us know what you want to hear about next week, and we will see you on the flip side.
See you later.